Yes, folks, hello, welcome once again to MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. It's time for another action figure review here on the channel, and as you can see on the screen right now, today's installment is going to be taking a closer look at the new G.I. Joe Classified Series Alpine figure. So stick around, I'm going to give you all the ups and downs, ins and outs that you need to know about Alpine here, so that if you're thinking about picking one up for yourself, bit unsure about whether you want to spend the money on this guy, well, I'm going to give you lots of info today to help you make your mind up. I'm going to talk you through the packaging, and then I'm going to get into the figure, talk about the aesthetic qualities and the visual experience I've had with him, then talk about the articulation and the poseability and how I've been playing around with him in my displays, then give you a rundown of all the accessories to tell you about the added value, and by the end of all that, with some final thoughts, you should have plenty to help you make a decision and make your mind up whether this is the guy for you to splash your cash. So let's get into it, and let's go back in time to visit with past Chris as he takes a look at the packaging for the very first time when it arrived on my doorstep. All right, let's do it. Here we go then, boys and girls. Here's Alpine in his packaging. Arrived a couple of hours ago, and I've been eagerly waiting at the end of work so I could get this bad boy opened up. But before I do, let's talk about the peg presents, the packaging experience for the mint in box, folks. And it's on the standard G.I. Joe Classified Series new packaging. Although I keep saying that, how long I can keep calling it new, I don't know. So we've got that carbon fiber kind of blue and black pattern in the background there. G.I. Joe Classified, he's a Joe, so he's got the Joe symbol, the old small parts warning, blah, 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 and then the window on the front showing off the figure and his goodies and accessories, along with the name here in the top left-hand corner. Then on the back of the packaging here, we can see that he's number 133 in the line, got the digital render of the figure in action. That's actually a little cheeky comic book Easter egg, folks. Go check out my G.I. Joe Classified Series packaging Easter egg video series. The latest installment explains the little Easter egg there. Then we've got a couple of breakout windows showing off a few key features, like the paint applications of the Idaho t-shirt and his, what he's called C-clips, D-clips, these little climbing equipment things hanging off in there. Import sticker there, shout out to In Demand Toys over here in the UK who import their classifieds over. Then we've got Legal Bollocks and Malarkey at the bottom, and of course the data card. Let's zoom in on that and learn some more about Alpine, shall we, folks? Okay, first up here, we got this little patch insignia symbol there. This is because Alpine collects patches. He was, in fact, the vocal driving force over at Hasbro for the first stretch goal on the Rattler, because he really wanted some new patches to add to his collection. So he's got an extensive collection, military and non-military alike. Keeps them all on a corkboard. He pins them onto a corkboard in his digs there, and collects patches from all around the world. Then we've got this little craft knife here. Alpine, as one of his kind of relaxing hobbies, is arts and crafts, particularly making his own little mosaics, like to cut out the little cardboard triangle patterns, gets them glued down, and creates these most incredible pictures. In fact, he's so much better at it of late because he's found an app that calculates the pieces that he needs to put together. So keep an eye out for that around and about on the internet. He's an incredible mosaic artist. Then we've got this telescope here. Alpine is an avid bird watcher. Likes to get himself into the wetland nature reserve, get himself all kind of nice and cozy with his thermos of coffee or tea, you know, depending which country he's in, and watch the birds go by. Just spends hours watching the birds, photographing birds with his telescopic lens. Very exciting hobby. And then finally, we got like a climbing rope and a climbing hammer because, well, he's a climber, isn't it? Then on the side, we've got this lovely bit of painted artwork, obviously a continuing theme that they've tried to stick with all the way through the G.I. Joe Classified Series packaging. Watching Alpine in work, about to throw his grappling hook there. A repeat of the fact that he's number 133 in the line. And then on the other side here, we've got the little sepia version, the blue sepia version of the artwork, a repeat of the data card, and then the mystical QR code to nowhere. Anyone's at that lately? I've not. And there you go then, folks. There's Alpine in packaging. So I'm going to go away, get this bad boy cracked open, get some good quality man-child playtime in with the figure to gather some nice, solid review thoughts, good and hands-on. And I'll be back in a moment to share those review thoughts. So stick around because Future Chris is coming in 3, 2, 1. All right then, folks. Well, here is Alpine raw as he came out the packaging. No accessories or any additional stuff hanging off him. It's time to talk about the aesthetic qualities. We'll get into the visual experience I've had with the figure. And I'm going to start, like I've taken to doing more frequently lately, with a head-to-toe view of the figure. And overall, he looks all right. He looks all right. He feels, when you take him in as a whole figure in terms of shelf presence, he feels a bit busy to me, which I know is a little bit hypocritical because some of the more busier characters seem to resonate with me. But Alpine just seems very busy. I can't explain it. Compared to Road Pig, which is also a very busy figure, the busyness of Alpine stands out to me, and I'm not entirely sure why it is. I can't put my finger on necessarily why it is, but he just seems like a cluttered figure in a bad way, whereas Road Pig seems like a cluttered figure in a good way. Do you know what I mean? Does that make kind of sense? Let me know in the comments down below if I'm talking bobbins. But what we can see here is that this is a strong vintage inspiration, to some degree, a vintage inspiration in the figure, with the rope across his chest, the t-shirt underneath the green and black padded jacket, grappling hooks, and they've added a few bits on to modernise him, but broadly speaking, it's generally vintage inspired. Brown pants, the kind of climber boots and stuff, very much like the vintage figure that we saw back in the mid-80s. Moving in a bit closer so that we can see some of the finer detail, let's talk about the face sculpt there. Fundamentally, it's a decent face sculpt. The facial features are good, the paint applications are good, the sculpting on the hair is solid. It's all up to the usual G.I. Joe Classified Series standard in terms of quality of face sculpt. I'm just not very keen. It seems a little wide. He seems a bit wide-faced. Even if I wasn't looking for a kind of more accurate, nostalgic representation where I seem to remember him having a thinner face in general, I'm just not very keen on that wider look face. One of my Joe Bros over on the Discord that I belong to said he's just got like a Little Richard vibe going on. You know what I mean? And they weren't wrong. So it's got everything you need. The moustache is sculpted, the paint applications are well applied. It's a solid head sculpt. It just doesn't feel like Alpine from a nostalgia point of view, but also it just looks a bit wide and a bit not quite right, like it's just a slight uncanny edge to it, which is a shame because, like I say, it's fundamentally a well sculpted head. Plenty of sculpted detail and paint application detail to give the figure depth, give it texture, and bring it to life in the 6-inch form. So on the jacket there, like these little padded sections here, the windproofing and padded sections painted black on top of the green jacket, sculpted detail on the zipper at the front there, little touches like a splash of colour, some little leathery pads there, which I'm sure is that climbing related? Any climbers out there can tell me what the purpose of these little wrist pads are, but they're there and they've got the brown colour scheme in them. You've got the sculpted rope across his chest there as well, which is similar to the Shipwreck one, but not quite direct full reuse. But it's got the rope pattern in it. The knots are sculpted on the front and on the back. You can see there more padding and stuff. So that's all good, all nice textural stuff. And then you can see creases and folds in the coat. Just took the rope off over his shoulders there so that I can pull the jacket back and show off the t-shirt underneath. So we've got this white t-shirt. I've had to darken it a bit so that the lights aren't reflecting off the white, but you can see all this lovely crease and fabric textured detail in there. And then the lovely paint application with the Idaho mountain ranges there in honor of Alpine's home state. And the orange and purple of that design gives it a nice little splash of colour as well. Moving down to the waist and around the groin area here, we've got the climbing gear, so he's got his harness on with his carabiner climbing clips hanging off him, several there to keep him out of trouble. They've got a paint application there on the actual clips themselves, although it looks a bit weird to me having that paint on the inside, on the middle bit. There's like a little bit of paint right in the middle there where it should be like hollow, you know what I mean? And I find that a little bit odd on the eye, but otherwise, that's his specialism, and he's got the harness and the carabiner clips and stuff there. And then the harness around the back of the figure has got some hooks and some loops and this little peg hole here, which I'll show you later when I walk through the accessories, so that you can hang stuff off him and plug stuff off him. Additional climbing related gear. Trousers have got the fabric texture detail in them, a few extra sculpted bits like the painted like little combat trouser pockets there, and then he's got his climbing boots again with extra sculpted detail and painted on bits. So aesthetically, Alpine's okay. You can certainly see the storytelling, the narrative around his specialism in there. like I say, I'm finding it a bit busy. I think it's all this stuff down here, but busy in a bad way that I can't explain. But otherwise, it's all right. If you can get past any criticisms you might have of the face sculpt or your desire to have a more nostalgic-looking face sculpt, it's fine. He looks less busy without the rope over his shoulders that he was wearing when he came out the packet. So I'm going to give him a tentative thumbs up, but I'd be interested to hear in the comments down below what you guys think around whether I'm chatting bobbins with regards to the busyness and what you think of the head sculpt there. All right, so there's the aesthetic, there's the visual experience. Let's now take a closer look at his articulation and posability. So we're looking at a standard G.I. Joe Classified Series articulation scheme. As always, I'll put timestamps in down below so you can jump to the next chapter, which is the accessories and added value, if you neither need nor want to hear about the articulation. But if you do, if you're interested or you want to know if there's any particular quirks, then stick around, I'll walk you through it. And I'll start by taking a look at the head. So, as usual, we've got a ball in the base of the head skull there and a ball at the bottom of the neck. Gives you okay down. The up's not so fantastic, but that's a little bit more about the collar line getting in the way. And then you can full 360 it if you can get his chin past the collar there. And you got all that kind of like motion on the top of the ball there. Moving down into the shoulders, you can't see it, but there's a butterfly joint underneath the coat there, giving him some forward and back. And then they're pegged in and hinged, so you can do full 360 and then bend him out into the T-shape there, like so. Swivel at the top of the bicep and tricep. Pinless double elbow that will get you up to there. Then standard pegged in hands, which you can swivel in the socket there. And then we've got on the right hand here an up and down hinge, and on the left hand here we've got a forward and back hinge. Although because of the way the cuff is sculpted and we've got this little overhanging section of this leather arm guard, it gets in the way, restricts the articulation there a little bit with the hands. Then moving into the torso, we've got the ab crunch and the ball joint there. The ab crunch is underneath the coat, which is quite good, so that when you're crunching forward or crunching back, the coat moves along with it nicely. And then we've got the ball in the waist there, giving you that range of motion. I don't know if you've noticed, but mine's a little bit wobbly there, a little bit loose on the ab crunch. Probably from all that crazy head shaking and dance moves he does while he's stood at his piano. Then moving into the hips and the groin, it's the standard G.I. Joe Classified Series drop-down joint. The harness here doesn't get in the way too much. It's loose enough that you can do decent forward. Definitely got a good Russian ballet splits in there as well. And they don't get in the way of the thigh cut swivel. Then you've got pinless double knee that'll get you up to there. Swivel at the top of the boot line. And then the standard hinge and rocker for the feet. So, thumbs up on the articulation, standard G.I. Joe Classified Series articulation scheme. I've said it before, it opens up a wide range of posing possibilities, and with a character like this that you want to kind of pose up doing, climbing kind of things, it's all there, you can get there. Just the slightly loose joint on the ab crunch, really. That's the only thing to point out quirks-wise. And I'll say what I always say, that's with my figure here. That's by no means... it could reflect the other Alpines that are out there, and other experiences may differ. So there we go. There's the articulation and posability. Great. Okay, let's now take a close look at his accessories and added value. And first up, we've got the hat and the goggles there. Key part to Alpine, the original characters' visual identity there. So these were necessary. The hat just pops on and off, across the top of the head, and then the goggles are in that soft kind of rubbery plastic that we've seen with eyewear before, and you just slide it over the top of his head, and it's a ring that goes all the way around, and that's fine. I'm not so keen on the hat. I feel like it looks a bit big and oversized on his head there, like it doesn't sit right. I've tried fidgeting around with it and fiddling around with it, but I can't seem to get it looking right on him. The light's reflecting off his goggles there, but you get the idea. I mean, it's well sculpted, got the insignia on the front, got the matching padding to go with the jacket and the green and the black, good colour match and stuff. It just looks a bit big, like he's wearing like a bicycle helmet or something, which I suppose it's supposed to be, isn't it? A climbing helmet, like head protection. But then you'd expect maybe he's got a strap on the underside, which anyway, I'm banging on too much. It doesn't quite look right to me. So the overall visual experience of him wearing his hat just kind of draws my eye, and I think, that looks a bit too big. Then we've got a couple of climbing ice axes there for him. These are fine. These are okay. But I think they're reuse, aren't they, from somewhere else? You guys you know, I've got a dreadful memory for this stuff. Someone will drop into the comments and help me remember where this was previously used, maybe with a snow serpent or something, or snow job. But yeah, these are fine. You know, a single molded piece of plastic. Got the paint application on the blade section there, and the paint application on the handle, which is good. And they look like, you know, ice axes. I don't know what else to tell you. I quite like this, that this one's got this little wrap here on the bottom as well, just to sort of differentiate the two. So there's a slight more unique quality to each of them there. The only thing I will say is that there's, to my understanding, there's nowhere really to store these on the body unless you do some really kind of creative hooking in on the loops around his back. Which, I don't know about you, but that just seems wildly impractical to me and not the intended use. But I don't know. While I got him turned around and I'm talking about climbing equipment, we've also got his little chalk bag pouch here, which has got a peg on the other side that goes into that hole on the back of his harness, and then this little grappling hook here with the string cord wrapped around it, and you can hang both of these off his figure. The chalk bag plugs into the little hole at the back there, and then there's a hook on the side of the belt. Get it in focus, Chris. There you go. A little hook on the side of the belt where you can hook the grappling hook on him. These are fine, although I keep finding this, I knock it off all the time. The peg, the like little thicker bit on the end that plugs through, doesn't quite work. The implementation of that's a bit shaky. But yeah, fine. More climbing gear, part of the storytelling, part of the type of accessory selection you'd expect to have with a guy like this. Then we've got the grappling gun here with the removable kind of like hook peg thing that you can shoot out there with the loops on it if you want to add some string to it. They've painted the grapple orange on this, but we've seen this before in the line several times. The Alley Viper had one, for example. So yeah, that's fine. And again, on point, on character, part of the narrative that you would expect with Alpine. And then he's got his like little, is that a submachine gun or a small rifle? I don't know guns, but again, we've seen this in the line before. Single piece of molded plastic, black body with the green butt on it and the green magazine, which is also removable. So that's fine. We've seen it before, and it looks cool. Yeah, it looks good in his hands. The green trimmings sort of add to a little bit of uniformity to Alpine there with this piece of weaponry. So it's a solid accessory selection. It all ties into the kind of storytelling that you want to do with the character or the pieces that you have, you know, for the visual identity, like the helmet there. And that all adds up. It all makes sense. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with any of it, and just a little bit of janky implementation when it comes to things like the way that plugs in on the back. So all works for me. Opens up a world of possibility. Oh, and of course you've got the rope, the chest rope that came on the figure when he came out the packaging there as well. So yeah, my only real criticism is that I think the hat just looks a bit oversized. That's it. That's all I got. But again, I'll open up the floor to your comments down below. Let me know what you think of the accessory selection. Okay, well, there's Alpine's accessories and all the added value. Let's just take a quick look at him next to a couple of other G.I. Joe classified characters, shall we? So here he is next to Bazooka. Obviously, this pair just have to go next to each other on the display shelf. Although I've only got the Tiger Force version, I don't have the proper OG colour scheme that he would have had in the Sunbow cartoon. But yeah, got to get these Bezzy mates together. Here's Alpine with Quick Kick. I'm just chuckling because like the outfit difference in terms of general activity, but obviously in the cartoon, Quick Kick often just was dressed like this out in the cold mountainous regions. Although in the movie he had a big parka, didn't he, with a furry hood. Here he is next to Spirit. And finally, not a figure comparison, but I've grabbed the best backpack fit I could find out of my bits box there, which I think is either Outback or the 60th anniversary Troopers backpack, because what an oversight not to give him a big old pack that he can mount all his non-climbing gear on while he's hooking his way up the side of a mountain. You know what I mean? So, folks, here we go. Here's Alpine going around on the turntable so you can get a nice 360 view of the figure. And final thoughts time. Would I recommend him? Well, yeah. But there might be other figures I would go for first. He is just a big, solid lump of G.I. Joe classified, and he's obviously an iconic character in the G.I. Joe sphere, certainly for cartoon fans and comic book fans. He featured heavily and regularly and teamed up with many different characters. He's just I don't know, I don't know, just not. There's just all these little kind of fiddly, annoying bits about him that have all added up to make me feel less impressed compared to other classified stuff I've been playing around with lately. But there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it, except for maybe the helmet looking too big. And if you're an Alpine fan and you can look past the little Richard face, he's got a lot to offer. I mean, all that narrative storytelling stuff is there, isn't it? All the stuff around his specialism's there. I just, I don't know. I've said it before and I've said it again. In my older age, I'm much more into the kind of wild, wacky, sci-fi, crazy shit in G.I. Joe Classified and some of the more like Soldier Boys in the greens and blacks and browns. I'm finding less interesting, but it is a military line, and they are an elite specialist military force, and they need a dude who knows a thing or two about climbing up mountains, and Alpine fulfills all that promise, and the G.I. Joe Classified of Alpine fulfills all that promise. So I don't know. I think I'm at final thoughts, but I'm feeling like maybe I'm judging a bit too harshly. I also think I've been so bowled over by Road Pig. I've been having loads of fun with that figure that maybe he's just been a little overshadowed. I don't know. But there we are. Okay, well, hopefully all of that has helped you make your mind up. If you've been thinking about picking up an Alpine for yourself, then you've had enough information and a good enough of a look to help you make a decision. But all that remains for me to say is that thank you very much for watching my video. I know there's plenty of other channels you could be hanging out on, and you've chosen mine, and I am ever so grateful for that. If you have found it useful, give us a like. If you're not subscribed, give us a subscribe. All that YouTube bollocks and malarkey. Otherwise, all that remains to say is that I hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great rest of the week, and I'd love to see you around these parts again sometime soon for another video. So, do that. Come and hang out again sometime. All right, folks, well, take it easy. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.